Hi everyone, I'm back for day 5 of my series on the fourth trimester and maternal mental health. Um, so we've had 4 days so far. So on the first day I talked about, essentially I was introducing the fourth trimester and what it is. On the second day I talked about how you can help your baby through the fourth trimester. So on the third day, I took it from the mother's point of view and talked a lot about how honouring the fourth trimester can really help mothers too. And then yesterday I talked, it was a very short one because I had a really bad headache, but I'm fine now. But yesterday I just talked a little bit really about common concerns from parents during the fourth trimester. And it was kind of really reiterating what I'd already talked about on the second and third days. But today is kind of going a little bit more into the actual mental health side of it, which is really what triggered this whole series, because I'm going to talk about why the fourth trimester is such a fragile time for mums and why I focus on it and why, for me, it's so important to take the time to get it right. So if you think about the fact that what sustains pregnancy, what keeps you pregnant essentially are the two hormones estrogen and progesterone. Now these two hormones are at their highest during pregnancy. They're the highest you'll ever have. Apparently it's as high as having something like 100 contraceptive pills every single day, so that it's super high. And then 3 days after you've given birth, those levels go from being, as I say, the highest ever to very suddenly dropping to your pre-pregnancy levels. So it's a huge change from, really high estrogen, high progesterone to what you would have had before you got pregnant. Now, if you think about how you might feel or how you used to feel if you're currently pregnant or you're breastfeeding and you haven't had your period back, around your period, so really commonly women experience quite severe premenstrual symptoms that can often be quite debilitating, but really often women feel quite moody, a bit maybe a bit weepy, a bit sad. So if you think about that's how you feel around your period, and that is a much smaller hormonal change, imagine how much more you would potentially feel those symptoms after you've given birth. So that's why quite commonly 3 to 5 days after given birth, you get something called the baby blues, or commonly women get the baby blues. The baby blues, as I say, they usually start about 3 to 5 days after giving birth, around the time when your milk comes in. So before that, when you first give birth, you're only producing colostrum, which is a very thick, very concentrated form of milk that is full of antibodies. And then it takes 3 to 5 days or so for your milk, your what's called your mature milk, to come in and to be able to feed your baby the way you will feed the baby for the rest of your breastfeeding journey. So it happens around about the same time when your breast milk comes in, and this very sudden hormonal drop happens, and it all happens at once, and you're suddenly thinking, oh my God, I can't feed my baby, I don't know how to breastfeed, can't get the latch right, it's all going wrong, I feel really upset. And if you know about baby blues, if you're aware of it and you're prepared for it, which is why I'm telling you about it and reminding you about it, because I'm sure you've already heard about it, you can almost recognize, you can see those symptoms happening, and take steps to, I suppose, be kinder to yourself. So realize that you're probably doing a fine job feeding your baby. You're probably, doing really well on looking after your baby and healing, because it's so easy to start feeling doubtful about yourself, about how things are going. Baby blues is really common, and it passes very quickly. So usually within very quickly, I mean within a day or a couple of days, or certainly within the first week after giving birth. I think I had baby blues, I think it lasted for about half an hour. I suddenly felt very, very overwhelmed by the number of people in the house. And there really weren't that many people. I think it was just my dad and my mother-in-law and my husband, and obviously me and my new baby. And I was just like, oh, I just want some space and some quiet to myself. And it was really lovely because my sister and my husband just sort of ordered me back into bed. And in the meantime, they prepared our kind of spare room into like a nice little warm cozy cave for me to hang out in, to breastfeed my baby, so that I didn't have to kind of always be squirreled away in the bedroom. So as I said, recognize when you've experienced the baby blues, and then you can take steps to sort of counteract it, and just know that it will pass, and it does pass. So after 1 week after you've given birth, your levels of a hormone called oxytocin rises, but it needs to be enough to counteract this drop of estrogen and progesterone, to counterbalance that sort of low weepy baby bluesy feeling that you might get. Now, oxytocin stimulates breast milk production and promotes bonding with your baby, so it's really, really important. I think I would have mentioned it a couple of days ago when I talked about how to sort of look after your baby through the fourth trimester, but it's stimulated by skin-to-skin contact with your baby, breastfeeding, so it's a loop. It's stimulated by breastfeeding, and it stimulates breast milk production. Cuddles, dark rooms, quiet time. Hopefully, if you've watched some of my videos for the last couple of days, that will all sound really familiar to you, because that's exactly this kind of things that I talked about a couple of days ago when I talked about how you can help your baby through the fourth trimester. Now, the other thing about oxytocin is it's very sensitive to stress. So if you feel at all stressed out, your levels of cortisol rises and your level of oxytocin goes down. And this is really important to know about, because that first week of motherhood is extremely stressful. You are, adjusting to having just given birth, which is a marathon in itself. You are recovering from giving birth. Your body is busy healing away, so there's internal stress, so to speak. You are suddenly faced with this brand new little baby that you've never met before, and you are to look after it. You have to learn how to breastfeed, all of these things. And on top of that, you're surviving on very little sleep. So of course, your potential to feel stressed out and your cortisol levels to rise is very, very high. So what do you do? Well, again, you just think, okay, what are the circumstances that can promote oxytocin production? And if you just think, what does the baby like in the womb, is similar to how you will most easily produce oxytocin. So warm, quiet, dark, plenty of cuddles, just allowing yourself to bond and fall in love with your baby, which is exactly what you really want to be doing throughout that fourth trimester, but especially in the first few weeks. So why are new mums at particular risk of postnatal depression? And this is a really important I suppose area to talk about, because postnatal depression is really major. It's very debilitating. Apparently something like 10%, officially the known statistics are 10% of mums experience postnatal depression, but that doesn't really account for the mums who either don't get help or don't think it's bad enough to talk to someone and get help. So that there's chances are the actual real statistics are quite high, much higher for postnatal depression. In terms of being able to differentiate it from baby blues, it's much more all-consuming. It's debilitating. You feel like your ability to look after your baby might be compromised, and it can last for weeks. So whereas the baby blues will pass within a couple of days, and usually only starts within that first week, and it will pass very quickly. Postnatal depression can last much longer. It can also occur at any point during that first year of motherhood, and can even happen during pregnancy, or even further beyond that first year. And also fathers can experience postnatal depression as well, because of the huge change in their circumstances as a father. So why are mothers so particularly vulnerable to postnatal depression? Well, there's a host of reasons, and of course I can't really go into that right now, but certainly a major one from a nutrition point of view is that quite often we go into pregnancy relatively depleted in our nutrients, and then pregnancy is already quite a nutrient hungry experience for 9 months. Childbirth is a nutrient hungry experience, and then recovery as well, plus breastfeeding. So you're very likely to be quite low on many nutrients after giving birth and while you're caring for your child. And then if you're not able, or you're not don't really know how to nourish yourself and replenish yourself of all of these nutrients, then you're just continuing on that downward trajectory of nutrient depletion. So that's a really very key nutritional potential cause of postnatal depression. Also anxiety around dealing with the newborn, understanding the newborn. I mean, it is a very anxious time, of course. And finally, lack of sleep, a very well-known risk factor for postnatal depression. Now, many mothers are going to experience that and not get postnatal depression, and likewise some mothers might not have all of those factors and still get postnatal depression. So there's many factors, you can't pinpoint it, but obviously from a nutritional point of view, it's a very straightforward way that you can reduce your risk and take away one whole risk factor, is to focus on your nutrient density throughout pregnancy, but especially after, when you're trying to recover after giving birth. So that's a very kind of, in a nutshell, very whistle-stop tour of the hormones during pregnancy, immediately after, and how to cultivate the right hormones to avoid kind of having a potential repercussion of postnatal depression. So tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit more about how you can get help if you think, if you suspect postnatal depression. And then on the 7th day, on the final day, on Wednesday, I'm talking about how nutrition can help, and really go into a little bit more detail about the nutrients that you potentially could be quite low in after you've come out of childbirth. So I hope you can join me tomorrow and the day after, and look forward to speaking again. Bye.